Bonsai peeps, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. Today I'm going to be repotting this hibiscus. This was an air layer that I took off of a plant that's right outside my living room window. My first successful air layer last year. It doesn't look like much right now because I, did the pruning, and so it's down to kind of just a stick in the mud, literally. But follow me. I'm going to take you out front and show you the plant that I got this off of. And I'm going to show you my plans for this spring to air layer a larger branch. And then I'm going to repot from this into this pot right here. Stay tuned. Okay, so looking out the window here, that is the hibiscus plant that it came off of. Let's go outside and take a closer look here. So there it is. You can see this thing is kind of a monster. So I took it off of, I want to say this might have been the spot, or maybe it was this one. I can't remember now. It was one of these two here, and it went real well. So this year, my plan is to air layer a larger chunk and closer to the base. I'm thinking either this one, or possibly the big one back there, but I'm not sure yet. I've got a lot of options. So oops, let's see if I can get out of there in one piece. So that's it right there. You can see there's a lot to choose from, and they seem to do well with air layering. So I have high hopes this spring. Let's go back inside. Okay, so there was a look at it. You can see there's a lot of branches there to choose from. So I may air layer 3 or 4, I don't know, but I'm definitely going to go for at least 2. I'm going to do another one, maybe a little bit bigger than this first one here. Put it back in the frame. Maybe one about twice the size, and then I'm probably going to get ambitious and try one of those larger ones. They just have a real nice aging to them. The bark is very fizzard, I guess is the word, and aged. So that's my hopes. Now for this one, I'm just going to take it out of this pot, put it in this one. I've already prepared this pot and put some soil in. So that it's ready to go. I'm not going to do any pruning for the most part unless the roots are out of control. So we're going to take a look at it right now. Frankly, I don't even know what kind of dirt this is in. So this might be kind of exciting to find out here. Let's take a look. All right, so just to walk through the process, always loosen up the soil a little bit, just kind of squeeze the outside of it. And I pull gently. You don't want to yank it out of there and rip off all the roots, but just pull a little gently to see if it wants to come out, and this one wants to come out. Okay, so I can already see that this has a very healthy root system. If you look around there, I'm real happy with that. So we may have to actually trim some roots to get it to fit inside of this other pot. First, I'm just going to get all the rocks out from the bottom. I just use my hands for that. Okay, that part's pretty much done. Then I'm going to scrape off the top layer. Always comb outward in a radial fashion like this. You're also sort of combing out the roots at the same time. Yeah, look at all those roots. Hibiscus plants, from what I've read and from what I'm seeing, have a very, very fine root system. And I can tell that to be true right now from looking at it. Still got some sphagnum moss around there from the air layer last year. And I will be doing a video on the air layering when I do it. It'd probably be another, let's see, it's mid-February right now, 2019, so maybe another 3 weeks or so. I want to do it in early spring. I mean, I may even do it sooner than that, depending on what the weather's like. almost did it already just to see. I mean, I don't know if you can do it in late winter or not. Honestly, I don't see why not. Just in my mind. I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking it through. I don't see why you couldn't. I can see why you wouldn't want to do that in, say, fall. Because you do it in fall, the growing season is more or less slowing down. Sap is starting to go back down into the roots. But in winter, everything is more or less set. And if anything, it's just gonna start springing off that way. So in my mind, I don't know why you couldn't. And I may try it just to experiment, just to find out if you can, you know. Okay, so I'm just continuing to comb out these roots here. I'm really happy with this root system. I mean, this thing is rooted out a lot. Almost there. I try not to make any hard plans. You know, when I go into these, I try to have a plan of what I want to do, but I don't set it in stone because oftentimes you don't know what you're going to find in the roots until you just get in there. So when I say, you know, I'm not going to prune any roots, and then I take it out and it's root bound, it's like, well, now I have to prune some roots. So you know, you want to allow yourself a little bit of wiggle room there. You want to paint yourself into a corner. Let's see if I can not make a giant mess of this. A little mess is okay. We're getting there. Gosh, I'm really happy with this root system. Hey, look. Yeah. That was just air layered last year. Tried to look back at some pictures and posts and just whatever I could find to find out when exactly I started this air layer. I couldn't find anything, so I'm sure I've got something on it. I just don't know what I did with it. That was half the reason I started the YouTube channel and the Instagram channel, was so that I could keep better track of the timing of when I did things and what did and didn't work. And nothing else, you know, even if I do or didn't get a big following, if nothing else, it would help me just kind of keep track of the timing of everything. So I can feel, you know, when you do an air layer, you cut off the branch, and I can feel that this branch stops right here. Right here is the soft point. Hopefully you can see that. But anyways, it stops right here. Tell you what, I'm gonna give this thing a rinse, and that's gonna be a dirty job, so if you can hang tight for just a second, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, got them pretty well rinsed out. Got a real healthy root system here, as you can see. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in and give you a closer look here. All right, so hopefully I give you a better look. One thing I did notice is that if you look in here, see this is the spot where I cut it from the main branch that it was on. There's really no roots most of the way down, because when you do an air layer, for anybody who doesn't know, you score a strip around the branch, remove the bark, scrape off that layer of cambium that's around the branch. And what that does is that later when the leaves come out and the sun starts shining, the leaves soak up the energy from the sun, try to send it down to the roots, but you've removed that layer. So what happens is it just sprouts new roots at the point where you cut it. So the moisture from the roots still go up to the leaves, so they stay alive, but it just has nowhere else to send the energy. So that's what an air layer is. So because I did the air layer so wide this time, I've got this big extra strip of dead wood, so I'm just going to try to remove that right now. I'm going to try to do that without breaking what small amount of branches I have left after the pruning. So I'm just going to hold these back. Didn't really think this was going to be the case, so I brought my bigger ones, but here goes. It worked. threw it across the room, but it worked. So that solved that problem that we had, which was that it was too deep and wasn't sure where to go. So now we can keep all these healthy roots and still have it fit in the pot. Now we are gonna have to trim some of the roots because there's just so many. Wasn't really thinking that that was gonna be the case. So let's take a look. Here's the pot is going in. So you can get an idea already that they're not gonna all fit. So I'm gonna try to just trim around. Something like this. It doesn't have to be exact at this point. We'll do some of the fine tuning later on. Right now we're just getting into decent rough shape. So we know from the size of the pot, it's gonna have to fit like about like that. So I'm gonna do some preliminary trims just to get it into the general size. My girlfriend hates watching when I cut the roots. Hates it. I tell her it's necessary. It's a part of bonsai. You know, you gotta trim the roots for it, A, to fit in the pot, and B, to keep the tree healthy. Because if it grows too many roots and the tree becomes root bound in the pot that it's in, you would think it would be able to drink more water, but the opposite is true because of the roots, there's nothing to hold any moisture in. There's no soil to hold moisture in because it's full of roots. So all the moisture that you pour in basically just runs out the bottom. You know, runs right through the roots and then out the bottom. Not to mention all the nutrients from the soil are gone too. So it both starves and dies of dehydration. So, but anyways, it's an ongoing thing that she likes to give me a hard time about. So there we go. So we got that into a little bit closer to the shape we're going for. So we've got to make a few cuts here, I can see. Think of it more like a haircut. Okay, so there, one other thing I'm gonna do here. As you're working with roots, you don't want them to dry out. So it's good to have a mister on hand, just to keep them nice and moist while you're working with it. Missed a piece there, missed a couple pieces there. So I'm thinking that's gonna be the front right there. Still a little bit undecided. But yeah, I'm thinking that that will be the front. So I want it to sit sort of like this right here. So I can see I've got to make a lot more cuts too as I'm looking at it. So I'm going to just keep it right where it is. Cut it around the sides like this. Okay. So you might wonder why I'm just sort of hacking away at it like this and not putting a lot of care into it. And you would be right to think that to an extent. However, not a lot of care is needed at this stage because fortunately we do have such a healthy root system that we don't have to do a lot of deciding between roots at the moment. Plus, since it is going on now its second year after the air layer, I still want it to build up some good strength and vigor. So I don't want to start fine tuning it too heavily yet. I just want to basically get it to fit in the pot so we can start the process of training it. Training the roots to grow in the directions that we want them to grow. Instead of straight down, we want them to grow laterally. Okay, we're getting there, we're getting there. A couple more little cuts here. Kind of like so. we see any obvious roots that are just not going to fit the mold, we'll get rid of those like this here. Since it was growing up, we don't want that. These giant roots, get rid of these. Like that one right there. It's going to give you a better look. That one there. That one there. Okay. There we go. So we got a lot of healthy roots left, and we got them in the shape and in the direction that we want them to go. So I'm not going to fine tune any more from there. Just going to kind of get this in the right position here. Oops, a couple roots crossing. As you can tell, I make a gigantic mess as I go. Okay. Now, I'm putting in some soil. I'm just going to pour in just a little bit there, a little bit around the edges. And before I pour any more, I'm going to try to work that soil into these roots. And the reason we do this is because we don't want any air pockets in there. Because if you leave air pockets within the roots, which is easy to do, especially in a case like this where it had such a healthy root system, you leave air pockets in there and then the roots dry out. When the roots dry out, the tree can die. So we don't want that, because then this was all for nothing. So I'm just going to work the soil into the roots. Also, when you work the soil in real well, it helps firm the tree's position in the pot. You know, wiring trees into the pot is very popular. You watch a lot of videos where people do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. I personally don't do it a whole lot because I've found that oftentimes you don't need to. If you work the soil into the roots well enough, and if there's not a big risk of wind where you're at, and there's not where I am, then really you don't need to, as long as you take proper care. But that's just me. I'm not telling you it's a bad thing. I'm not saying, excuse me, that you should or shouldn't. Maybe you have little puppies that like to chase little kids around and they bump into things and have a good time. And in a case like that, yeah, you'll probably want to wire them in just to be safe. I don't have that right now, so my kids are pretty well grown at this point. A couple teenagers left. Okay, just working in the soil here. We're making good progress. Another scoop. Oh, one thing I'll add though, one reason why I don't wire them in is because I oftentimes will place rocks along the surface, and that holds it in pretty well too, against normal, you know, little bumps and shakes and that type of thing. And I will be doing it on this one. I can see it, for whatever reason, wants to fall straight forward. So one thing you can do when you have that, you work in the soil under the back side of where it's wanting to tip. That usually fixes the problem, especially if you can get underneath the roots a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So sorry, my camera turned off on me right at the end of that last part there. I'm not sure if I finished saying whatever I was saying or not. It just turned off. So, but it's okay. It gave me a chance to go and give this a rinse, which it was about time for anyway. So I gave it a good soak. What you want to do at that point after you repot, of course, is just rinse it thoroughly so that all the fine particles can rinse out the bottom. And also you want to see and make sure that it's draining well. So it gave me a chance to do that. Now, just in the last stages here, just gonna put some stones in. What I was saying before, hopefully it didn't cut out this part, was that when possible, I try to avoid wiring them into the pot. It's just my own habit, I guess, or my own preference, but what I will do, because I do want to sturdy it up some, is I'll put stones in, kind of hold it in place, just for those little inevitable moments when the wind catches it just right, you know, or you bump into the table when you're trying to water it or whatever. So let's see, try to find some larger stones to kind of hold it in. And then as time goes on, I just remove the stones. They're just a temporary feature. I might leave some in, you know, for decorative purposes over time, but for the most part, start to remove them as it firms up in the pot. So put a few more stones in here in strategic spots. You want to put them in places where it holds it in place and keeps it from moving around. So just a few more here. I'm notoriously picky about this part, so I'm going to try to not be right now, but I could sit here and just fine tune this with stones all day long. So I'm not going to do it. Just going to get them in place. So a few more here. There we go. Maybe one more. Just one more. Okay. So there we go. Get a little misting so they look cool. And there you have it. A hibiscus tree from air layer to bonsai, or future bonsai. We'll call it a pre-bonsai, I guess, technically for now. So, but I have no doubt that this is gonna sprout again. You can already see in spots here where the leaves are just starting to bud out. This I'm not sure of yet. I think I may end up removing this branch here. It's just kind of in the way. It was hard to find a good front for it as it was, and it all came down to this guy being in the way. So this may end up going, but I don't have to yet. I've got lots of time, there's no hurry. So I'll wait, make sure that it leaves out real well and it's real healthy. And once I'm confident that all the other branches are healthy and good, then I'll make the cut. So until then, I'll just leave well enough alone. But there it is. Hope you got something out of this. If so, if you liked it, please click like and subscribe on the channel, and stay tuned for updates on this and other trees that I've done. And I will post the air layer of this year's hibiscus air layers too soon. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day.